Did you have a big middle school trip?
I don't think so. Well, you know what? I think there was like Washington, D.C. or something like that.
Yeah.
I don't really remember exactly. I think there was for my grade, but I wasn't that interested. I don't know.
Do you remember other people being interested?
Yeah, I
Like,
do.
was it a big deal?
Yeah, I kind of do remember that, but I can't remember if it was like people before me or people after me talking about it,
Hmm.
or if it was during the time that I kind of want to say it didn't happen for our grade because I feel like my friends at that time probably would have been like, "Come on, let's just go," and I would have like been like, "Okay," you know. So
Yeah.
maybe it didn't happen, but I know that at Camino they did have something like that.
They had one at Zia for sure, and it was a New York trip, and I think they went to DC too while they were there.
Yeah.
And I don't remember what it was for, but I remember everyone was going, and it was like a big deal, and everyone talked about it. But and I hope they fix this because they definitely didn't do it back then.
Yeah.
Is they didn't really acknowledge the kids that couldn't afford to go,
Really?
like at all, because I was that kid. That's how I
Yeah.
know. And so it's like I remember everyone being excited to go, and people, when you're a kid, you don't really think of everything. People were talking to me as if I was excited, like, "Hey, like, are you gonna go?" As
Yeah.
if it was an option for me. And some of those people knew that I didn't have money. They knew that type of home. But I think when you're that young, you don't understand what
You
that
don't
means
think
yet.
about
They think
that.
like, well, maybe they could still go somehow.
Mm-hmm.
So I remember people asking me about it. I was like, I don't know. And I remember flipping it into like, I don't want to go.
Yeah.
And I did want to go. But
Uh-huh.
I remember thinking it's way easier to be like, well, I'm just not even interested then, and like I don't have any money. You know what I mean? Or anything weird. But the teachers and the faculty, I don't remember. And maybe they did, and I don't remember. But I don't think, and if anyone's listening to this that had been, and they do remember this, correct me. But
Yeah.
I don't think anyone came up to me and asked me about it, or it was even addressed like in a group setting where it's like, hey, not everyone can go. So let's make sure that if you are going, like, don't be rude kind of thing or something. But everyone, even some of my friends that were also not very, like, doing off very well went. I don't know if they got like funding or something, but yeah, they all went on this New York trip, and I remember they came back and everyone talked about it because like they all flew together. It was like a huge event, and they all had pictures. And this is back when it was like actual pictures,
Yeah.
not on the phone. And yeah, they were just like they're like, Duff, Tyler, this kid Tyler Allred. I hope he hears this podcast because I missed that guy. Like I haven't talked to him in so long. If somehow this video gets to him, hit me up, Tyler. He was so cool. He's one of my friends, and he was like a cool kid, but he was also nice. He was a nice, cool kid, and he I think it was him, but they're like, dude, Tyler Allred threw up on the plane because he got like plane sickness or something.
Oh.
And like I was like,
motion
what?
sickness.
Like yeah, everyone knew
Plane sickness.
whatever it's called. Yeah,
I know what
he
you
got
meant.
sick of planes during the ride. But that was always like that was like the big thing. Like you know when something happens, like everyone tells everyone, even though they weren't even there. Dude,
Yeah.
Tyler Allred, I saw it.
Like it's kind of like a rumor
yeah,
or something. Yeah.
That was like the big
Big
thing.
event.
Yeah, so like, dude, Tyler Allred fucking could not breathe on the flight. They gave him a bag, bro. Like you know how they like make you breathe in like
Oh yeah. Like
when you're
those-
hyperventilating. What is
yeah.
that called?
I think just hyperventilating to breathe in.
Well, I think hyperventilating is like when you can't breathe, or is that hyperventilating when you breathe into the bag?
Well, you're hyperventilating and you're breathing into the bag to kind of help like soothe that, I think, right?
So is there a name for the process of breathing into a bag?
I don't think so. I
I
don't
feel
know.
like there is.
Maybe a nurse would know or a
I
doctor.
know.
I
Damn it.
don't
We
know.
need a nurse in here.
I think we can just say breathing into the brown bag.
Yeah, he was breathing into the brown bag. I was just thinking about that. I'm like, what if there's like a cool or like a official name that I'm not using? But yeah, that was pretty much it. Like they came back. There was a trip. They all talked about it, and we kind of moved on from it. But it was like sixth grade. Everyone was talking about like I can't wait to get to eighth grade to go on the trip, and that was like a
Yeah.
big deal.
That's crazy. You think that like people or in the school system would think about that, people that aren't able to, afford it, or they, maybe have some type of funding resource or even like an incentive, like, hey, if you sell a certain amount of this, like this was going to go to your trip kind of thing.
I think they did.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Fundraisers, I guess, or and stuff like that. Car washes, like things like that. I feel.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think also just acknowledging that some kids, I don't think they should do special treatment, right? Because when you hear stuff like that, people's first thoughts are usually like, well, they should just not do those trips. And I would have felt worse if that was the case. I think there should be a trip. I think someone should have inspired me to want to do something to go. Because I didn't think it was an option at all. Like I didn't even look into options because I was like, that's just not my life. Like when I get home, we're eating ramen and we're like, you know what I mean? Like we're struggling to do stuff, and like our house is like really old and there's weeds everywhere, and there's like, it just wasn't a nice neighborhood, and everyone's on drugs and drinking, and so it didn't seem like an option.
Yeah.
It didn't seem like I couldn't do it either. Like, you know, that feeling of like I can't accomplish that, like, or that feeling of like that'll never be me.
Like when you're kind of sad about it, almost.
Yes, almost like accepting that it's impossible. That wasn't me. I never did that, right? Because it's not my personality. I'm not the type of person that really accepts that something's impossible. At least not anymore. But when I was a kid, it wasn't that I was accepting it's never going to happen, like I can't do it. I didn't even know I had the option to try. And so, like, that's what it was. It would have been nice if someone told me, like, hey, poor kids can go too. They just may not get parents, like, money from their parents, but hey, why don't you come over to my house this weekend and, like, me and you will do the car wash or something, like he said. Or we'll go door to door and sell this, or we'll ask. How about we just ask? Who doesn't want to send a kid to New York? You don't think if there was a poster up and they said, hey, Will wants to go to New York, and it had like my smiley little 8th grade face on it. Like, you know how many people would be like, we got to get this weird dorky ass kid like to fucking New York. Like, and they would have donated. But it was just like, I didn't know that any of those things were options, and I didn't know to do them, or I was never motivated to like be put in a position where I could get a good outcome from it. And so, like, I always look back on that, and I think, like, I'm pretty sure they don't do that anymore, huh? I feel like our society is pretty progressive, and I feel like they extra super duper care about stuff now.
I don't know.
I think so.
I would think so.
They definitely didn't back then. There wasn't like an emphasis on that stuff.
I think we should go to the schools after this.
And check?
Yeah, and just make sure and tell them.
What does a nerdy kid even look like? Like, anymore?
I don't know. I haven't been to school in a long time.
Because nerdiness is the cool thing now. Like, the way nerdy kids used to dress.
You think?
Yes. Have you ever seen 21 Jump Street?
Yeah.
Do you remember the scene where Channing Tatum and Jonah Hill is like at school, and they're like, loser to some kid, and like, what? And before they went to school, he was like, you gotta one strap it, like the one strap backpack, because it's the cool thing to do. And then they get there, Jonah Hill's like, dude, everyone's two strapping it. Should I two strap it? Like,
oh yeah, I do. Yeah, I don't even know anymore.
Do you remember that? One strap was a cool thing, and then it turned into like both of them was cool for guys. I don't know how it was for girls. And then they would pull the thing, and it would sit high up on your back, and you would pull it tight, especially if you wore a tall tee, which I did. And that was like the cool thing for a while. So my point, and then like everyone wore baggy clothes, and the tight clothes were like the gothic kids, you know what I mean, or like the weirdos. And now it's the opposite. We all like, it's more of a common thing to wear tighter clothes. Yeah. So I feel like if me and you went undercover, like, or like even if we didn't, we just walked in, like, I feel like we wouldn't even know what a nerdy kid looked like.
Yeah, that's true. We'd be oblivious. Maybe
and we don't have any kids. And we don't have any nephews.
Maybe some of our friends that have kids. We have nephews.
But do we have friends that have kids or nephews that are high school age?
We're about to.
Who?
I think Jess. Little Mikey's, I think, going to be in high school soon.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. We'll have to get them to film.
Yeah.
At least everyone has like cameras that or phones with cameras on them.
With what's happening with these trips. But back to that, I had a question for you. So when do you think you noticed like I'm not gonna have like money for this, or like the trip thing? Like, did you just know always?
I just knew. Yeah.
Like, did you ever ask your mom like, hey, can I do this? And she said no?
No, never. I would never ask her because there was no point. For multiple reasons. Either she was with a guy that wasn't very nice, and asking her meant her asking him, which meant bad things. Mm-hmm. Or even if she wasn't with someone, which is very rare, by the way, it was just like, it would be like asking your grandma to like MMA fight with you. Like, hey, grandma, I'm trying to like get really good at MMA. Like, that's a stupid question to ask. Grandma's not training with you MMA. She's just not doing it. She could. But could you picture in your head you walking up to your grandma right now and saying, hey, like, I'm trying to get really good at this. Like, do you mind holding the mitts for me? Yeah. Like, you could do it.
Like, you would maybe think about other people that would be more fitting for that role.
The way the grandma wouldn't even be capable of that, even if she put in effort. It was the same feeling metaphorically that my mom would have. Like, she was very rarely sober or very rarely happy, or like very rarely in a point where she could leave the house and put in effort into anything else other than what she was already doing. Mm-hmm. So it would have been a huge letdown, or it would have been an obstacle, like an extra obstacle, like it would have created some new issue. And so it just wasn't worth it. Like, I never thought like, oh, there's a chance I could go. It was always, I knew I was never going to go. Hey guys, if you enjoyed that clip, click on this link right over here to subscribe to this clip's channel. Or if you want to view the entire conversation, go ahead and click on this link over here to view the entire podcast. Bet you on the next one, guys.